What's going on YouTube? Guy in the backseat here from Doom Valor Games, here with my big discussion on cards to look out for, in my opinion, from Cosmo Blazer. I'm going to try to keep the video a little shorter. I noticed I've been making very long ones lately. So I figure that I'm going to go over none of the TCG exclusives, not in this video. These are literally just the cards that I found to be interesting and not enough support for an archetype to define like a whole video just for them. Just cards that need to be looked at and cards that make certain decks a threat. So we're going to move on. Getting started is the big baddie of the set. Basically, the card that everybody knows is going to be worth money, at least based on the previous two Elemental Lords, because we had Grand Soil and we had Moonlit Glacier. Now, Moonlit Glacier defines pretty much a win condition essentially for the Abyss deck. So we have our friend Pyrorex here. Now I'm going to use the Japanese scans just because they're way cleaner than the ones that have been popping up from from Spain and Brazil and Germany, where they just get stuff early and they just crack the boxes early and don't care. And it seems like they almost get their sneak peek a week before us, but whatever. So Pyrorex, the Elemental Lord, he's a fire level 8 2800, 2200 pyro monster, or dinosaur actually. And he says that if he is, you can only special summon him if you have five exactly fire monsters in your graveyard. And he hits the board and says, once a turn, target a monster your opponent controls, blow it up, and inflict damage to both players equal to half of its attack points. Now, it kind of reminds people of Ring of Destruction, but this is also the first time of the Elemental Lords that they've watered down the effect of the monster, like based because the spiritual art of fire says you inflict damage only to your opponent equal to the attack points of the fire monster attributed. In this case, you're blowing up an opponent's monster face down or face up, and you get to deal damage to both players. So I guess it's kind of balanced, but the fact that Lavels can put this thing on the board basically turn one is a bit of a problem for me. I like that he's balanced because he hurts both players, but I don't like that he's still a 2800 body. And just like all the other Elemental Lords, he has the little, I guess, negative of the next turn's battle phase you have to skip if he leaves the board. So Pyrorex, in my opinion, also he's pretty good, but in my opinion, he's also one of those they bumped the rarity just for the sake of, the TCG, because in Japan he's a super rare, just like Moonlit Glacier and Grand Soil, where they were both super rares, and they come over to America and they're secrets. So, it's a rarity bump. We get a couple of those every once in a while, but this set especially did it. So anyway, moving on. The next few cards, I've talked about the big baddie. Let's talk about the other cards that I'm seeing out of this set that look really awesome for me. Cards that have a lot of potential, cards that could really shape decks to be way better than they currently are. So we have Astrodron. Now he's adorable and a level 4, 1600, 1000. Not bad stats. And he's a spellcaster. And it says that if you use him as an Xyz material, you can make him a 5. So that's already like a big bonus just to be able to play a level 5 for the sake of playing a level 5. I mean, that's really cool just by itself. Like Wind Up Shark makes Wind Ups work because he can bump his level or lower his level. This guy can only up his level, but he has an awesome effect whenever he's used as an Xyz material. He just lets you draw a card. Now, he doesn't have any prohibition on special summoning him or anything like that. So what I'm seeing is like for a player like me, I can see I attack with an Astrodron on my opponent's face down, whatever, flip up a Magician Circle and summon their Effect Veiler out of their deck, replay the battle, attack the Effect Veiler instead, summon another Astrodron, main phase 2, go into level 5s, exceed for a rank 5, and draw 2 cards. Now, that's just me, but he's a short print common. So I'm really liking Astrodron as just a universal card, not too broken, not too rough. You do need to utilize him, in a good way in order to really plus off his play. But just to Pot of Greed after you Xyz summon would be crazy. So that's why I like Astrodron. Next we have, he's the only real monster that really stuck out for me. Granted, there's Go 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 Ghost and some other crazy ones that stuck out. But I really liked Astrodron. He was like my number one pick for just easy to obtain non-archetype monster from the set. Then you have Quick Booster. This card is really cool because it does things the opponent doesn't want you to do. You see, the biggest thing with this card is that it has two effects. The first one is just its standard quick play effect, which says shuffle a quick play spell card from your graveyard into your deck. Now that doesn't seem that great, like woo, I'll get back my Mystical Space Typhoon or my Forbidden Lance or possibly Econ or, Super Poly. Don't forget that's a quick play. So, like it automatically just targets a quick play spell card in your graveyard and puts it back in your deck. Doesn't seem like a crazy effect. But the best part about this card is it says when this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you special summon, or you don't special summon, but you add a quick play spell card from your deck to your hand. Now, I'm not sure how the chains would work, but essentially, I'm thinking that if my opponent Mystical Space Typhoons this face down card, I can chain this, and if I chain it, its effect will resolve first. So the first effect is to put back a quick play in my graveyard to my deck. So I'll target, my MST or my Forbidden Lance or my Super Poly or my Econ, put it back in my deck, shuffle my deck, then it'll blow up because of a Mystical Space Typhoon, and because it was destroyed, I'll search my deck for the card that I just put back. That's really cool. Another super cool common from the set, in my opinion. And worst comes to worst, you activate it and put back a quick play spell. And in Prophecies, you can just put back your Spellbook of Wisdom. That's really nice. And to be able to flip, search, add, blow it up because of you can chain this to your own Heavy Storm. You can chain this to a destruction effect. It's very universally cool. And I see it being teched possibly in certain builds. But we'll see what happens. It depends on if they leave MST at 3. But anyway. Next one. Charging Emperor. Okay, I noticed that they're giving the Monarchs tons of support, in little tiny ways throughout the years. And Charging Emperor is extremely cool. It's kind of like Seal of Orichalcos. You can't special summon from your extra deck while it's on the board. But it says tribute summoned monsters you control cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. That's amazing. I mean, it's like it really locks down. Like you summoned a Caius, not only did you remove something, but now they can't bottomless it. They can't deprison. They can't even trap hole if they wanted to, or they can't compulse it, and they can't there's so many cards that people rely to get rid of cards. And this just lets your monarchs sit. It makes them into sort of gods essentially. Except you can't target your extra deck to summon. So I mean, granted, there are ways to get around this. You would obviously blow it up with your own effect, or bounce it with something, and then you'd be able to play it later after you Exceed summon, because it doesn't have any clause that blows up special summoned Exceed monsters or anything like that. But I see this as an interesting little piece of Monarch tech, something that Monarchs could possibly use in the future. Next up is another future use card. Not right now going to be extremely playable, but it's called Disorderly March. And it basically says if you control Beast Warriors, or a Beast Warrior, a Beast, or a Winged Beast monster, you get to draw one card for each one that you control. Now, you can't activate spells and traps the same turn that you use this card, but it doesn't say anything about setting them, and it also doesn't prohibit the battle step. So Harpies are going to be a deck I'm seeing in the future, and you can chain Hysteric Party at the end phase of your opponent's turn. That makes you discard a card, so that's already pretty bad. You have to pitch a card, but you can summon up to 5 monsters. And then next turn, you can have this in hand, activate it at the start of the turn, draw 5 cards, and then proceed to beat your opponent's face in after you set all your back row protection. I really like Disorderly March, and Joel actually pointed out how good this card could be. And not to mention Beasts and Beast Warriors. I mean, look at freaking Gladiator Beasts. They could even use this. I mean, because you don't rely on that Wabaku until your opponent's turn. You would just take a turn not to attack or whatever. But I mean, Black Wings, Beast Warrior decks. I mean, even I guess Kokimiru. Not really, but they could use a draw card. That'd be awesome. Next card is the card a lot of people have been talking about, Breakthrough Skill. It is a pain in the butt effect. It basically is a effect veiler for trap cards. It's a trap card effect veiler, but it can be activated during the battle step, which is a big deal. And you basically just target a monster, its effects negated, and then you can, like, the next turn, not the same turn it's used, you can banish it from the graveyard and use the effect again. So I mean, breakthrough skill, ultra rare. It's going to be like a $20 card. Everybody knows that. It's not going to go down in price because it's so techable. And so, it's one of those cards they also aren't ever going to limit or forbid because it's balanced. It's a trap card, so don't, complain. And then last but not least, in terms of my like extra like non-archetypal cards, is this one. It's called Dimension Gate. Now, I know people that activate Lance whenever they activate their Dark Hole to keep their monsters, or Torrential, or something like that. This card's kind of like that. It says when you activate it, you target a face-up monster you control, banish it, and then when your opponent declares a direct attack, you send this card to the graveyard, and you get to special summon the monster banished. Now, a lot of people probably won't see the true potential in this card, but I mean, look at its capabilities. It's like you can activate mind control and activate this card, banish their monster, and keep it forever, essentially, with no limitations. That's pretty cool. And then furthermore, it's like you can activate this when your opponent activates Darkhold, Compulse, anything, and just get rid of your monster and keep it. That's the biggest thing. Is like most of the time they're compulsing to attack directly. You activate this, you banish your monster, they go to attack directly, you get your monster right back. And now they have to deal with that wall again. So I like this card, Dimension Gate. It's a cool little common, I think, from the set. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so those are my picks for like interesting spell and trap and monster cards from the next set of Cosmo Blazer. Obviously, everybody's going to be looking for Pyrorex, but come on. He's Pyrorex. You really can't say you aren't going to be looking for the card. He's going to be expensive. So anyway, as always, comment, rate, subscribe, enjoy the video, and I'll have some stuff up on the archetypes next.